You are with the big story, the top focus that continues to remain with the situation in the northeast. I'm Seher Zama. The situation there is still tense, life out of gear. Curfew that continues, heightened security that continues, desolate streets across several states of the northeast. Fuel supply, travel facilities have been hit here as well. But earlier today, President Ram Nath Kovind went ahead giving in his assent to the Citizenship Bill, which is now, from today onwards, the Citizenship Act across the country. We're getting in further inputs, and this is across affected northeastern states, how it is spreading to other states here as well. This includes the Meghalaya clampdown, this includes Arunachal being hit by fuel supply. All of those details, top 7 developments that we're looking at today. Our correspondent Tanima is getting us those inputs here. Tanima, please go ahead. We're now looking at how it is impacting life. It's not just stranded, desolate streets. It's about daily supplies, it's about fuel supplies, it's about airport being shut there as well.
That's right, Seher. In fact, there are two aspects that we have to look at over here, as you were rightly mentioning. That one is, of course, how the daily life has been hit for residents over there in the northeast. What exactly is the impact of this continued tension on the ground that we've seen this entire week, ever since the bill was introduced in the parliament? But let's just take a look at what have been some of the top developments that we have seen taking place since last evening and early this morning. So as we know, Section 144 has in fact been imposed in Tripura's Gandachera area. So Section 144 has been imposed in some of the worst hit areas, Seher, where we have seen a lot of protest intensifying over the days. As we know, the police deployment has been increased. Police chiefs have been changed. In the case of Guwahati, the police commissioner was changed. Army has been deployed. So in certain areas, Section 144 has also been imposed as a prohibitory measure. Secondly, situation still tense in North Tripura and Dhalai. So Tripura also was one of the first areas in which internet had in fact been suspended, remember. And also there were certain troops of the army who have also been deployed in the state. So situation over there in northern part of the state specifically and in Dhalai region is particularly tense. If we look at the third important aspect which is coming out from this as a latest update from the area, in Arunachal, students have marched to Raj Bhavan in protest. Now, as we know, there has in fact been advisory given out and prohibitory orders are in place on ground. But despite that, despite all the alerts and the warnings and the advisories, protests still continuing sporadically in northeast, though none of them this morning have in fact been violent so far. But the students have in fact walked towards Raj Bhavan, towards the governor's house in protest in Arunachal. Let's go to the next point there, where fuel supply. Now, this is, of course, one aspect which we are covering in this latest development as to what has impacted people's lives. Now, in Itanagar, in Arunachal's Itanagar, fuel supply has been drastically hit because of the protests that we have seen in the state over the past few days. Even now, the situation remains tense, but largely we've seen these long lines. In fact, we'll bring those visuals across to our viewers shortly, in which we are seeing long queues outside petrol pumps. People are standing for like 2-3 kilometers long serpentine queues, which we can see on the streets of Itanagar. And that is, of course, something which is impacting people as a day-to-day, necessity that they need. In the fifth important point, that security personnel, in fact, have held flag marches in Guwahati. Now, as we have, in fact, seen, epicenter of these protests, Guwahati has turned out to be that location where most of these protests have, in fact, been seen. We have seen students also being detained. The police also opening fire on some of these protesters. Unfortunately, 3 people died in separate incidents yesterday. But flag marches being conducted by the army in order to keep a watch over the situation on ground in Guwahati. And the second last point there, educational institutions have in fact been shut in Guwahati till 22nd of December. So that is also another important impact on people, where educational institutions we see colleges and schools have been shut till 22nd of December as a precautionary measure. So this is, of course, we have not really seen student groups, as you know, Seher, have been very active in this region. They were the ones who had, in fact, given out the call for that 11-hour bandh, which we saw on Tuesday. So in order to keep that in mind, the state over there in Guwahati, Assam, has shut down educational institutions in the city, and exams postponed in Guwahati as well, especially the college exams have been postponed in Guwahati as a proactive precautionary measure as well. So these are some of the latest developments that we are seeing on ground there, as we have in fact been maintaining that certain parts are seeing normalcy in the northeast, but certain areas, especially whether it's in Guwahati or Tripura, are still seeing a lot of tension on the ground, but it's a wait and watch situation. Definitely the number of protests that we have seen over the past couple of days have gone down today.
All right, number of protests have gone down, but the clampdown there continues, which is why life is affected. Tanima, thank you for getting us those details. And we're going to play out those shots of what you're referring to. This is, of course, with respect to the fuel shortage there in Arunachal, in the state of Arunachal there, that has now impacted daily essentials. 2 to 3 kilometer long queues that you were mentioning there. Those are the images there as far as fuel shortage there in Arunachal is concerned. Itanagar's capital complex where this has been felt as well. Let's get in further inputs. Let's in fact get in a word here from Imphal. We have Vangamla Asale KS from Imphal with us over the phone line. Thank you for being with us. Help us understand as far as the situation on ground there in Imphal is concerned. These are almost 2 days of non-stop protests that we're looking at, but with the curfew, the protests have come down, but life has been affected there.
Well, the extension of IELTS in our state, the situation here is under control, but the notice for these people have called for mental protests here in Imphal, where they're going to support trying to reach out to the people who are actually suffering in Assam and the other parts of the northeastern states, as well as the MANPAC, Manipur People Against CAP, who has been spearheading the anti-CAPs protests. Have actually announced, despite the LP have extended in the state, they have announced to continue the agitations, and also they have taken to hoist the black flags, as well as people have decided to wear black patches just to show a grief and sorrow. We have those the anti-characters in the other parts of the northeastern states. Also today, the chief minister of Manipur and have people to for the people who have suffered in Assam and the other parts of the state, so that the restoration of peace can be in the other parts of the northeastern states.
Right, Vangamla, as far as easing of curfew and a few hours of ease that has been brought about, do you think that is going to have an effect on ground? Because this is seething anger that we're looking at on the streets.
Well, I did mention this. Even though the ILP have implemented in our state, there is happening. But since MANPAD, the against people CAP, as well as the Northeast Forum for Indigenous People, have already announced to continue to protest in our state as well. So definitely at the moment there's no such violence happening in us, but because there is the people are kind of scared that they might be out of work. So there has been a report that those people who have a vehicle have started to fill their tank before it gets over.
Okay, Vangamla, stay on with us as we continue getting in further inputs. This is, of course, with respect to how various aspects of life that are being affected here as well. This is from fuel, this is from educational institutions, travel that has been affected here as well. The one single airport in Guwahati, which had in fact shut operations yesterday. There was a fear of passengers that could remain stranded at the airport, which is why all flight services were suspended. This is as far as Assam and Tripura is concerned. Today is the third straight day of that we're looking at. Schools and colleges that have been shut, which means exams are to be postponed now as well. Not just flights, but train services, that are suspended. Flight operations to Tripura, that though resumed earlier today. As far as the situation there, if we once again take a listen in here, Wangmala, if my voice is going through, this is of course concerning Imphal and a cascading effect with respect to the other surrounding protests here and the impact of that in Imphal. Vangamla, is my voice going through, please? Okay, this is of course understandably a network problem there. Remember, this is at a time when we are trying to connect with people, trying to connect with correspondents and journalists on ground, when there is an internet clampdown, mobile services. What is operational though, of course, are broadband connections here, which is how we are able to keep contact and touch and getting in those ground inputs. This is yet another word now that is coming from the Union Minister Kiren Rijiju. He in fact has stated today that there are people who are trying to take advantage of the situation. He says there was extensive consultation before the Citizenship Bill was introduced in Parliament. This was a consultation which he says was historic. For the first time, people of the Northeast were taken into account and consideration before the draft and formalization of this bill. Also, the former Chief Minister of Assam, this is senior Congress leader Tarun Gogoi, has said on the other end, sentiments of residents from the Northeast with this act have been insulted. Take a listen in.
Some elements have tried to take the advantage out of the situation, but what is important is the sentiments of the people of northeastern region must be kept, and that is what Prime Minister has assured, and Prime Minister has already displayed it. Never before in the history of independent India the laws are being passed or made with the consultation of Northeast. This is the first time an extensive consultation took place before the bill was tabled in the Parliament. Maybe, I am very sure that the provisions in the bills are not properly communicated to the people of Northeastern region.
जब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट नॉर्थ ईस्ट और असम का लोगों का जो सेंटिमेंट है वो लैंग्वेज का लिए और रिलीजन का, उस सेंटिमेंट का वो रेस्पेक्ट नहीं कर रहा है। रेस्पेक्ट तो नहीं कर रहा है, लेकिन वो इंसल्ट कर रहा है। आज असम का लोग सारा और सारा नॉर्थ ईस्ट का भी लोग आज जो स्ट्रीट में आ रहा है, प्रोटेस्ट कर रहा है, डिफाई कर रहा है कर्फ्यू का, इससे आज इंडिकेशन हो रहा है जे गवर्नमेंट अभी तक रियलाइज नहीं कर रहा है।
Okay, those are some reactions. Vangamala from Imphal is connected with us here, getting us further details here. Vangamala, as far as this insistence, of course, that continues to remain by the central government here is concerned, that there were consultations without which this bill could not have been passed. There were consultations from all major players of the Northeast states, only after which this bill was discussed and then passed. Today it is being signed into law. It is the Citizenship Act today as we're speaking. Is there a sense that there are aspects to this act, there are assurances, continuous assurances by the central government which are not entirely being understood by the people in Northeast?
Well, despite having to assure the status that it will not be affecting indigenous population here, and also having the extent of issues in the Manipur state, MANPAC, which is the Manipur People Against CAP, have already announced to have a new meeting tomorrow, according to the of actions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're connecting to more voices. We also have Mr. PJ Barua. He's the executive editor of the Tribune with us. Mr. Barua, thank you for being with us. This is an important aspect to the fallout of this act that one needs to take into account in the face of the central government's insistence that there are aspects to this act which are being misunderstood. Can there be a misunderstanding to the extent that you have this protest now spreading to other states of the Northeast as well?
Well, you see, one thing has to be very clear. The union government knows very well that there is an Assam Accord on the foreigners issue signed with the Assam Students' Union, All Assam Students' Union. And that cutoff year is 1971. And that has been accepted by the BJP party earlier and all other parties of the country.
That's right.
So that and by that agreement, Assam has taken the burden of foreigners from 1951 to 1971. So that burden we have already been taken by the Assam. Now, by the enactment of this act, they are giving the burden of more foreigners who has come post 1971 to 2014. And apart from that, you have kept the borders open so that more Bangladeshi Hindus on the plea of being persecuted in Bangladesh can come in. So Assam cannot be the dustbin of the whole India. The Modi government should say that we'll take away these foreigners from Assam and distribute it all over the country. Because you have some foreigners coming from Hindu refugees coming from Pakistan, that might be only 10 to 15,000 or 20,000. But in Assam, it is a question of 5-6 lakhs, which the BJP leaders have themselves admitted, or it might be more. And you're keeping the borders open so that more people, where now 50 lakhs Hindu Bangladeshis are in Bangladesh, there you're keeping the doors open for them to come in. So Assam cannot be the dustbin, or you cannot eliminate the Assamese people. Are we not Indians? So that is the question on which the people of Assam or the Northeast is fighting. Our identity is at stake. If we are not a part of India, you say it, or you send us out. So the question will come to that. Are we not Indians? So this is very clear.
No, but Mr. Barua, you talk about the Assam Accord, and there are assurances that continue to come in from the central government, from the Prime Minister himself, saying that Clause 6 of the Assam Accord will be unchanged, that will be respected, that will still be followed, that will still be observed.
The government must place the safeguards on the table. They must enact the safeguards first. You cannot put the cart before the horse. The safeguards must be put in place. Then only we can consider what we can give to the government, how we can accommodate these refugees. So that question will come later. First, we must protect the Indians first. The people of India must be protected. The Assamese people must be protected. People of Northeast must be protected first. That is the duty of the Indian government. The refugees will come later. So that must be very clear to the people and the government of India. The government of India must know that their duty, and we have elected them to protect the people of India first. The refugees will come later. Their interests will be considered later. So that is what the people of Assam and Northeast are trying to tell the government of India. And the Indian people must also understand this problem, the existential crisis of the Assamese people and the people of India, Northeast. Because this is an existential crisis. You cannot.
Mr. Barua, we get your point here. All right. You stay on with us, please, if you can. We will be getting in more ground inputs. We have with us our correspondent Parbina there as well, getting us more details. But this is with respect to the curfew situation, which is now impacting other areas here as well. And Parbina, because the fact that we're looking at curfew now that has been here, and about the third day that we're looking at, it is impacting essential supplies. It is impacting everyday life now today as well. The violence would have come down because of the curfew, but now it is beginning to impact everyday life.
Well, absolutely. We are actually sending reports of how the city has come to a standstill because of continuous protest. There were 2 hours of relaxation this morning in Guwahati, and we have seen that how in hundreds people were outside ATM, fuel station, and many other similar places because whatever little bit shops which have opened were inside colonies or residential areas, but now they are again shut. And within that time limit, people were in huge numbers because they're not able to get most of their daily necessities or things which they need for their daily chores. So hence, we are seeing that how the normal life completely went out of gear, and their people are trying very hard at the same time to manage these difficult times. But when we spoke to some local people who were there in fuel station, they were saying that this is a movement we want to support. So even if we are going through this tough times, it's okay. We'll manage through these times, but at the same time, we will be with this movement, and we will not accept this act, the bill which is now an act.
Right, Parmeena, the fears of this continuing is that it is also spreading. Something that started as an epicenter with Guwahati and Assam, and then Tripura. We saw how Meghalaya is being affected, parts of Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh being affected now as well. So with each passing day, with these protests, with the sense of anger that we've been noticing in these protests, it is spreading literally across all the northeastern states now.
To see that what has started in, we have seen more protests starting in Assam and Tripura, but the places like Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Meghalaya, many other places do not even fall under the ambit of Citizenship Amendment Bill because tribal areas have been exempted, and most part of Meghalaya do not fall under the ambit. But at the same time, when we spoke to them, I spoke to my local sources there. They said, in solidarity, we will support this and we will protest because there are several indigenous groups where the center and the mainland India is not able to understand and breaking the ecology and the peaceful atmosphere here. And hence, we together as Northeast being one will continue to register that something like this cannot be introduced here because nobody will understand the demography and the ecology of Northeast part of India.
Parmeena, many thanks for getting us those inputs here. Despite the act which is now being notified, the Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, the Punjab Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh, and the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, these are all non-BJP state governments here, have decided to oppose this act. The Chief Ministers, in fact, have called the act unconstitutional and divisive. But remember, this is, of course, an act which has been brought in now by Parliament, by the central government, signed in by the President. Whether or not the states really have this option now of defying this will need to be further scrutinized. With that, it is a wrap on the show, but we will carry on. We will carry on with the focus on the fallout of this act. The anger is palpable and still visible. Protests could have been calmed down and controlled by the curfew, but the shutdown, which is now affecting daily life. Thanks for being with us.